So, good morning and welcome to our session today, 2 to 3 days hosted session with our guest speaker, Laurie McPherson. As you will have seen from the invitation, Laurie specialises in working with women and women's careers. So you're here today to find out, I'm pretty sure, how to find a role in today's market. And so Laurie's going to take us through her expertise in the next hour. As I've just mentioned, the session is being recorded, and you're welcome to show us your lovely faces, or indeed, if you choose not to, just turning your camera off is no problem at all. We've got a couple of very brief polls at the beginning. We'd really, it would be lovely if you could just give us a quick click on the keyboard just to help us understand who's in the room. So without further ado, as we're 10:02, I'm going to hand over to Laurie. Welcome, Laurie.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, and welcome everyone. As Benjamin said, we're going to talk today about how to find a role in today's market. So before I start sharing some slides, I just want to, Benjamin's going to release the polls, which is a bit like releasing the hounds, I think, and just tell us where you're actually at. We're really useful. Who is looking for a new role, actively thinking, or just a little bit curious today? All are fine. It just gives us a really good sense of who's in the room, as Envin said. Great. Oh, I can see them. That's great. So yeah, it's looking, as we all type, it's looking like lots of actively looking, a few curious, and some thinking about it.
Perfect.
Excellent.
I will stop sharing that. You can see that, which is great, Laurie. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay. Will we go on to the next question as well?
Yes, let's do that while we're here.
Yeah, and then I can So the next question is all about LinkedIn. Do you use
LinkedIn? Straightforward. Yes. Not a challenging question for 10 a.m. Thankfully, we're keeping them easy.
Yeah, most folk do.
Yeah, sort of 80%, I would say, of you are saying that you do currently use it, which is very helpful.
And we're going to talk about that much more today.
And one other one on LinkedIn, if you don't mind, which is just how you use LinkedIn, whether you're actively doing it in order to grow your network. You've done it in the past, you're not very comfortable with it, or you point blank just don't want to use it to grow your network. Which I'm pleased to see no one's admitting to.
Great. Lots of people have either done it in the past or aren't really comfortable, and some are actively using. Great. Really common not to know how, and that's absolutely fine, or to feel uncomfortable. Lots of stuff comes up when our old colleagues can see what we're up to, but we will talk much more about that later. Brilliant.
Okay. Well done. Thank you.
Okay. So now I know where everyone's at. I'm going to start sharing my slides, and just bear with it. I'll get them up and then I'll put them onto present mode. Okay, Benvin, can you see that in full screen?
All good.
All good. Brilliant. Okay, so let's get started. So today is all about how to find a role in today's market. And I'm going to start by saying that the market at the moment is a little bit tough. I'm going to be completely honest about that. So if you are applying and it's not going anywhere, it's tough. Yeah, there's a huge number of jobs out there, huge number of candidates out there, and the bit in the middle is the how. The candidate's applying, but they're not quite showing the employer how they fit this job. And the employer is desperate. Someone messaged me last night at 10 o'clock saying, we desperately need some staff, which is not obviously what I do, but we desperately need staff, but they're not getting what they need. So the big gap in the middle right now, and it's a kind of strange time, is how. A year ago, it was much more of an employees market. Now it's much more of an employers market, but there is still absolutely tons of jobs in the market and tons of things that you can do. So let's just be honest about this. When you're applying, you're probably not going to get, you're not going to get every job you apply for, but let's make it as easy as we can today. And let's just know the market's tough. We'll do the best we can with a tough market. So what we're going to cover then is a little bit about how to plan your career so that you know where you're going and what moves to make. How are you going to show you the right fit? And I'm going to hone in on this using your CV, your cover letter and your applications, the actual how. This makes all the difference. And then I'm also going to talk about using your network. So a little bit about me. I am Laurie McPherson. I have been working in helping people back to work for the last 8 years now. Started off doing that through a government employability programme, which was helping people who've been out of work for a long time. And then for the last 4.5 years, it's been my own business. And I specifically help smart women, usually over 40, usually tons of skills, usually doers who are great at getting the job done, but not quite as good at talking about what they've done. They'll often tell me, I don't know how to sell myself. I'm not very good at that. I don't know if I can take credit for that. I'm getting some nods. Great. This is really, really common and really normal for women. We're socialised from birth that we're not supposed to shout about our experiences. We should be humble. And we believe that if we do good work, it will be recognised. This is nonsense. That's not true. We have to shout about it, unfortunately. And I help women to do that. My background before that was retail for many, many years, and also travel. I was a holiday rep and then worked on cruise back in the days when there was no social media, thankfully, but I did that for a long, long time, got to see a lot of the world, and then came home and did retail for years, loved it, and then suddenly didn't anymore, and had a real 6 months in the wilderness wondering, what can I do next? And most importantly, who will hire me? I'm a salesperson. Who wants a salesperson? So I ended up working for Ingeus and then working for myself. And now getting to use all the skills that I love. I love what I do. I literally jump out of bed every morning excited to work with my clients. And I want my clients to love their work too, which is why I do it. So let's start by talking about planning. And this is where sometimes it can, women, again, great stats from a great book called How Women Rise. Women tend to focus on the job in hand, getting the job done, and not always thinking about the bigger career, about what might be next. So this is starting to think about what might you like to do next. And this is a lovely research phase. And what I'm going to invite you to think about today is not a massive panic of, oh, what can I do next? But a bit of research. What could I do next? Think about words like might and could, and I'm interested in, I'm investigating, I'm exploring, rather than shoulds and musts and all of those absolutes, because this is research and there's loads of choices available here. So have a look at the sort of jobs you might be interested in doing next. Find the job descriptions. Indeed is as good a place as any. There are obviously many more job sites, including, of course, 2 to 3 days for part-time roles. But if you're looking for a big spread of jobs just to see what they're all about, jump onto Indeed. Key in some keywords that you're good at. I wouldn't use titles at this point. Again, it's exploration. So my clients have talked to me about stakeholders, about engagement, about partnerships. Put these words in, find it, look at what comes up. Now, lots of it will not be for you. And sometimes at this point, clients get quite irritated. Laurie, all those jobs are in the conservation industry. I don't know how to do that. That's okay. All we're doing is looking for patterns. Who hires this sort of person? Is it government agencies? Is it private? Is it third sector? What kind of people look for those sorts of jobs? Find some jobs that you are interested in. What does those jobs need? And then it's a tick exercise. Have you already got it? Or can you get it? And I want you to be really objective here. They're not asking, can you learn quickly? Sorry, not sorry. They're not asking, you know, could you do it? I'm sure I could learn it. They're asking, have you got it? Have you already done it? Have you got an understanding of it? If you haven't got experience of it, have you got an understanding of it? Have you used something really similar? Do you understand the premise of how it works because you've worked alongside someone who does that? Or can you get it? And top tip, my ideal here for you is that you get it while you're working for your previous employer. They pay for it, even better. You say to them that you're looking for development. Here's what you're interested in. You go to them with a solution, not a problem, and you ask for this development while you're in your current role. If you have to say, I'll stay for X amount of time after I get it, if you have to say, I'll do this on top of my own work, whatever you need to do, can you get it? And what I'm not recommending you go away and do right now is go away and study for 5 years. Do hundreds of courses. I'm getting some smiles, I'm getting some rolling of eyes. Any procrastinators in the room? Anybody admit if they just do one more course? If we do one more course, we'll be enough, we'll be good enough, we'll be perfect, we'll be in the right place. No, they're usually, when we're a grown adult, yes, if you're 20 and you're coming out of uni, you need the qualifications. I get it. But if you're a grown adult, as you all are in the room, you're out, you've done work in your career, they want experience or knowledge. They don't care so much about usually qualifications. There are a few exceptions to that rule, and sometimes it is useful to get something on paper, but usually we're working towards experience, understanding, or knowledge. So can you get it while you're working? So what I mean by that is if you desperately want to move into the charity sector as a marketer, for example, you've never done any charity work, go, you know you want to do it, go and work for a charity you love voluntarily for 6 months, sit on the board, go once a week to do their food bank, volunteer at their big ladies lunch, whatever it is that you need to do, so that at the end of 6 months, it doesn't need to be any longer, you can say that you now have this experience. You'll also have contacts in the sector, which we're coming on to. You'll have built up a bit of knowledge of the sector. So do you have it? Can you get it? This is just them saying, here's my wish list. I want you to bring this to me. Now, I'm going to surface this because everyone talks about it. Yes, I know about the stat, which says men will apply if they only have 60% and women will wait till they have 110% of the job description. Right now, because it's a tough market, I wouldn't go for anything that I didn't have pretty much everything for. Unless, there's always a caveat, unless I had an in at the organisation. Unless I had a contact in the sector that I could say, I'm interested in this role, I'm not sure about this. Oh, let me introduce you to the person who's recruiting. Let me make an introduction for you. And you can ask a human being the question. I wouldn't spend hours and hours and hours of my time and energy applying for things I wasn't going to get right now. And I'll tell you for why. There's a huge sort of shoot your shot mentality out in the world right now. There's lots of go for it and woo and yay. All that happens is you apply, you spend all this time and energy on applications, you don't get it, you feel worse about yourself, and repeat and repeat and repeat. Whereas actually, when you look at it objectively, when I look at people's applications, it wasn't their next move anyway. It's the one after. And this is deeply unpopular, but sometimes you just don't have what you need for that move right now, and you're going to have to go away and get it, and then it's the move after that. So do not spend your time in this market applying for things you're not going to get. There's things I'm interested in. There's things I'm passionate about. You know, I always say I absolutely love the ballet. Nobody is about to pay money to see me in a leotard right now. So that's it. I have to simply say it stays as a hobby, or it's not my next move. It's the one after. And I always think about it as like being on the ship. We go from Italy in the summer and around the Med to Egypt in the winter. And we don't do that just by pressing a button. We have to do what's called a repositional cruise, where we basically chug across the water for 6 sea days to get us from A to B. And what you might need to do is a bit of repositioning. If you're going from A to B, you might need to put something in between. So your next move might not be what you want it to be. It could be the one after. If you're not fitting the role, if you're not getting the role, it's simply that we're maybe not there yet. But even if we're not planning to go anywhere, here's a couple of things I think you should always do in terms of career planning. And let me caveat this by saying I'm a really cheery person, right? I don't look on the negative side of life. I wake up feeling joy and I assume everything's going to be great, and so it usually is. But I have seen so many times a boss decides to move unexpectedly. There's a buyout unexpectedly. There's talk of redundancy unexpectedly. You see an amazing job. It's 10 o'clock at night, you're trying to pack lunch boxes, you're trying to sort the dog, you're trying to sort the kids, you've got an application to do, and you have nothing to give to it and put into it. So as you go, I highly recommend that you do a couple of things, whether you're looking or not. First of all, build your network. They'll absolutely be on LinkedIn, whether you like LinkedIn or not, they'll be on there. And you can find them. You can use the search bar. If you're an HR assistant, For example, you can search HR managers, you can filter by your specialisation and your part of the world, and you can add these HR managers without knowing them. It's not creepy or weird, it's a networking site. You can add them, you can look at what they're talking about, and you can join in the conversation. And I absolutely understand that when you start doing this, you will feel like a creep and a weirdo. Why would anybody want to hear from you that doesn't know you? But that's what LinkedIn's all about. It's about building an amazing network of your people who are interesting and interested in you. Now, if your network is full of Brian, who's absolutely delighted to announce and it's all deadly boring and it's really corporate, that's okay. Leave them. They're not generally doing any harm, but add your people going forward. And your people are people in your sector, in your area, or where you want to go. And look at what they're talking about. Now, top tip here, lots of them are talking about nothing. 95 to 99% of LinkedIn users never post. So if you do, your post and your content will stand out. And you don't have to go on there and be professional. You don't have to be rigid. You don't have to be boring, dare I say it. You can absolutely be you. You can talk about things that are important to you in your world, in your work, in your life. You can show your face. In fact, your post will get much better traction if you do. You can talk about your why you do what you do. It can be human. I get much more response when I post that I'm off to see Elton John, who's the biggest star you've ever seen, than I do when I post, here's my new thing, please buy it. That's tumbleweed. I still do it because it works as part of a mix, but actually being human and being you is fine. You might not see a lot of folk doing this. That depends who you follow. It doesn't mean that they're right and you're wrong. The old way of LinkedIn was stuffy, grey, professional. Now it's about being a human being because we're buying from other people and we want to hire people who we want to hire, who we want to sit next to, let's be honest. Recruiters do not want to phone the Yellow Pages all day long. They would much rather go into LinkedIn, find someone, they know what they're talking about. They went to that conference, they attend events, they're out and about in the world, they have some opinions, they're a human being. Oh, we actually also have a hobby in common. We both enjoy hill walking. I'll give them a call. Much easier than phoning cold. So use LinkedIn, and I can absolutely help you with that, but use LinkedIn. Don't avoid or ignore just because lots of people use it in a really boring way. You don't have to be one of them. So yeah, who are your people? Find them and talk to them, and then create content that shows how you can help them, shows what you're all about, shows what your opinions are. Yes, God forbid you are allowed to have an opinion and be a human being on LinkedIn. People actually love it because they get to know you as a person. And you can also do some, creating of a bit of a brand about yourself. What things do you want people to know when they see Claire? Is it bright colours? Is it your kids? Is it that you've got a very beautiful dog? Is it that you love hill walking? Is it that you're always running races? I don't know. You can share any and all of that. Mine are that I love Prosecco and I wear a lot of leopard print. And sometimes people will see me before they check it's my name. They'll know it's me. That's the best indication that you have created a bit of a brand for yourself. I see. Is it unacceptable? I can't say this. Okay, I'm going to come to questions at the end if that's all right, just so that I can keep a bit of a flow going, but really good question, but a chronological gap. There's a way to plug the gap, actually, not in a naff way or doing something wrong, but I'll tell you about that later. Okay, so that's a little bit on LinkedIn, but definitely you want to be in it to win it. The other thing you want to do, whether you're moving or not, is gather evidence as you go. You will not remember in 6 weeks, years, months, whatever's time, what you've done. So you want to be gathering evidence as you go. And what I mean by that is, what have you done? What have you achieved? And what has that meant? Every single day I see CVs that are just a list of duties. No numbers whatsoever. Handled budgets. Budgets of what? A fiver? The other day there was no numbers on a CV that I saw. The budget was 69 million. It's quite a lot of cash. And the next employer is probably going to be quite interested in that. But it was nowhere to be seen. I had to dig it out and ask the question, how many staff did you manage? How many people were impacted by this project? Again, the other day, someone told me the project she'd been working on impacted their 30,000 customers in the UK. That wasn't on there. So how does your next employer know the level you're working at unless you tell them? So gather as you go. Now, this is easier for some industries than others. I get it. But you will have evidence, you will have achievements, you will have impact, and you will have numbers somewhere. You just might need to dig a little bit harder. I know some practices, it takes much longer for things to come to fruition, and some industries, research and academia, yes, projects can take years and years and years and still never come to fruition because of funding. But you've got something. You've worked on a project that's influenced 300 people in a particular area. You've streamlined processes for 200 staff, you know, something. And you're not claiming all of this is yours. You're saying, this is the bit that I did. Actually, this, you know, you might have led it. You might have mobilized the people that did it. You might have created the policy that helps these 200 staff. You need evidence. So sit down every month, have a notebook or something. I have a goal prompts thing you can use that tells you, what have I done? Have I trained a member of staff? Have I learned a new piece of software? Have I learned a new system? These things are all evidence. You won't need them all, because remember, when we come on to the bit about what you're going to tell the employer, you're going to tell the employer what they need and nothing else. But it's great to have it, because if you do get, your pal pings you out, you would be amazing at this job, you want to quickly send an application, or the closing date's tomorrow, you have some evidence. Well, yeah, we worked on that project and here was the result. Essentially, you want to tell them a little story, and it's not sexy, it's not fun, but you essentially do want to use your star, your situation, task, action, result, and give them a little story about what you've done and achieved, so that they can understand what level you're at, what your impact is, and what your achievements are, as opposed to a list of duties, because that doesn't really tell them anything. It's just what you did. They want to know what impact that had. So gather as you go. Don't wait 10, 20. Some of my clients have worked in the same company for 25 years. How are you supposed to remember examples from that? You just can't. It's not a thing we're too busy doing. How do we get the evidence as we go? So on to if we are looking for a new job. What's working now? And this first one sounds a little bit basic, doesn't it? Getting really clear on what you want, and really importantly, what you don't want, and only applying to roles that you actually want. Now, this sounds basic, but you'd be surprised the number of people out there who are applying for jobs they don't even want, because they think they should go for it. I've had that. I should apply for this job. Why? You get to choose. What do you really want? What is your non-negotiables? We can't know everything. We can't, you know, we don't know if it's going to be amazing or not. What we can know is what we want, and go for it. And again, as women, I hear all the time, oh, I don't mind, I'm quite flexible. That's not helpful. I know what you're saying. Oh, I'm quite open, really compliant and nice and all of that good stuff. Lovely. That's actually much easier for someone to place you if it's really specific. If you say, I'm looking for HR, 1 day a week in London, 2 days a week at home, and I'm looking for this salary, and that's what you tell people in your network, it's much easier for them than them pinging you. I know you're looking for a job, would this do? Slightly questioning, you know, it's a bit like blind dating. They send you their slightly odd friend with his trousers that are a wee bit too short. We don't want him. Best will in the world. We want what we want. So know what that is and put that out in the world. Tell people what you want. Yes, there's plan A and plan B. We'll start with plan A. Some people don't have the plan A sorted. We'll go to plan B when we need to, when the cash runs out, let's be honest, or when we've been doing it for 3 to 6 months. But if you honestly pick a plan A, focus on it and go hard, and you fit the job description, let's be honest, we're not going for jobs we don't fit, you'll get plan A. Asking your network for help is a biggie, and it takes a little bit of guts, because we don't always want everyone to know that we're out of work or that we're looking. And it's, women will always say to me, oh, I haven't spoke to them for ages, it feels weird just contacting them. Contact them. Go to your previous employer, one before, send them a quick message. Hey, hope you're well, looking for work right now, here's the sort of thing I'm interested in, would you give me a yell if you see anything? End of story. They'll either will or they won't. But at least it's out in the world, and at least it's really clear exactly what you're looking for. They can't help if they don't know. They don't know that you're looking and for what. People are generally really helpful, especially post-COVID, because so many industries closed, so many people in really big, secure jobs were out, and people are really helpful. There's a huge culture of helping people, sharing posts, all of that good stuff. If you put up a flair post on LinkedIn saying, here's what I'm looking for, and come from a position of, wouldn't they be lucky to have me? One of my good friends does, great news, we have some availability. Now, really what she means is we have no work, and it's a wee bit spooky. But she says it in such a way that it's positive, not I'm down to my last threepence, or I've been applying for months, or slagging off the recruitment system. We're not there yet. We're not in. Get in first, then you can do whatever you like. You want to ask positively, here's the sort of things I'm good at, here's the sort of work I'm looking for. Old colleagues will come out the woodwork and recommend you on the post. That's called a flair post, by the way. We're putting a flair out into the world to say, here's what I'm looking for. And again, you cannot just do it once. It's a bit like going to the gym. Unfortunately, you have to keep doing it so that people get it and people see it. The algorithms are not kind. We have to keep asking. And asking for help is hard. Again, and you can only ask openly if you can ask openly. If you're out of work, if you're in work, you can still be having conversations with recruiters, telling your own network, and be looking in the background. And then the last piece of golden advice is you have to show the new employer exactly how you help them. So this is a massive switch. When you're doing your CV and applications, you're not telling them everything you've ever done. You're looking at this job because this is their pain point right now. They are going to bed on a Sunday night going, God, I wish we had someone to come in and do this job tomorrow, but they don't. You, meanwhile, are over here, perfect for the job, but they don't know about you. So what you have to do is tell them exactly how you help them. And where we start is with the CV. So the most important part of the CV is the personal summary, the bit at the top, just underneath your personal information, the wee piece at the top, the 4, 5, 6, 8 lines that tells them, here's how I fit this role. And what I do when I'm writing CVs for people, I take that and I answer each point by point. I tell them how we fit each thing. If I haven't had the same title, I tell them that I am that title in the summary. The reason for this is so that they can quickly see that you fit. They won't scroll to the bottom. They won't go away down to, I wonder if she's done that or got that. They won't do that. You have to tell them straight away. They reckon we get about 6 to 10 seconds on a recruiter's desk. And that's if it's a human, which it usually isn't. It's usually a robot, an applicant tracking system that screens the CVs first, and they have keywords plumbed in that they're looking for. If you don't tell them you have those things, there's no secret, by the way, they're in the job description, you just have to tell them you have that, they can't put you into the yeses. They can't see how you fit. So you have to tell them straight away, as long as, of course, this is true, I am and I have what you're looking for. Here's the things you're looking for: stakeholder management, budgetary controls. Tell them you've done that and how. You know, currently controlling a budget of 60 million for the local whatever. Managing stakeholders, including in my current role. You want to tell them that straight away. You then want to have some achievements that give them clear numbers, and these must be recent and relevant to the role. Again, if it's something totally off-centre, they don't need to know. If you're not sure if they want to know, a great technique is to use the phrase, so what? Everything you write, ask yourself the question, so what? What does this mean to the new employer? Is it important to them, or is it important for me to tell them? If you won an award in 1982, is it important to them now? No, not so much. So no, you know, it's about what's important to them for this role. So yes, that means you do need to tailor every single time you apply. As far as I'm concerned, you need to tailor your CV, but it's a 10-minute job. Once you've got the bones of your CV down, you've got all the rest of it done, then change your summary and your achievements about something that's just a matter of reordering the bullet points to show them that you fit their role. The rest of it, you want to talk them through. You ideally want 2, 2.5, 3 max pages. You don't want to go on forever. You don't need to go past 10 to 15 jobs. Education at the bottom, unless you're going for a role in education. It should be mostly about your history and experience. Gaps are fine, and we don't need to over-explain gaps. If we don't look after children or older people, somebody else has to, and we have to pay them. So raising family, absolutely fine, gap, end of. You don't need to fill that with lots of, this is a really naff piece of advice that's dated really badly, is, you know, nose wiper, plaster sticker on her, cook, chef type things if you've been caring for kids or sadly older people. Just a gap, caring for family and dates, end of 2008 to 2010, done. If during that time you have taken courses or whatever, you can put them in. You don't need to over egg the gaps. It's a problem for you. It may or may not be a problem for the employer. Just be careful of language. If you're saying things like full-time mummy, yuck, and the person in front of you has also been a full-time mummy but has had to go back to work, that can be a bit controversial. Also, COVID gaps. If you're saying I had to take loads of time off and the person in front of you has had not to take loads of time off, it annoys me personally because I didn't have a choice and I had no government support, so I had to continue working. If you've had time out because of your industry shut down, that's okay. But again, be careful about anything that reads like an excuse or that you're going to have recurrent and persistent problems, because an employer will not bring that into their world if they can possibly help it. For every CV as well, I'm recommending you do write a cover letter, and the reason for this is twofold. One is to give them more examples of how you fit. First of all, your first paragraph is why them. Why do you want this job? And if you don't have an answer, don't apply. Someone asked me yesterday to help her write a cover letter and put in why she wanted the job. And I said, well, why do you want the job? Oh, I don't really know. Right. Well, no, I can't make up why you want it. You need to have a reason why you want this particular job, why it appeals, not how you fit, not yet. We're coming to that. But why this particular job works for you. And that can be the clincher. God, this person's really passionate about X. This person has a personal connection to Y. Why do you want this job? Then go on to how you fit. And if they're asking about, for example, again, stakeholder management, you tell them about a time when you've managed stakeholders in a current or previous role and the result of that. You give them 4 or 5 examples of how you fit so that they can see it. And if there is an elephant in the room, if there's a red flag that's going to be waving at them, you explain it, you front it up in the cover letter. Having worked at senior level in the past, I'm now looking for part-time work due to a change in personal circumstances. That's a beautiful catch-all phrase, by the way, change in personal circumstances, which could mean anything from winning the lottery to getting an inheritance to having to look after someone to anything. Change in personal circumstances. You're just neatly covering it off, because if you don't tell them your story, they'll make something up. They'll wonder what's going on. I had a client who'd gone from really high level work with a fashion designer in London to serving tables in a cafe in Glasgow. Both are fine, but there's a story there. There's a reason behind that. And if you don't tell them, they'll wonder. So give them a sentence. Move to be closer to family, seeking work. It doesn't have to be over egging or too much. But if there is something that an employer would worry about, you want to be telling them. Whether that's that you're a contractor going back to permanent, that's a flag for them. And what if you leave? If you're self-employed going into work, will they take instruction? No, very badly in my case, but yeah, I would have had to. So I have to front that up. Having worked for myself, I'm now seeking the stability of a full-time role. And I'm happy to take instruction in order to get that. Give them a sentence if you need to that covers the red flag. My lovely sister had gone at some point during her career, she's a nurse, always has been, and she'd dropped a couple of days so she could go to Bible college. She'd always wanted to do it. She was dead interested. She said, what if they read that and think I'm, some sort of religious maniac who'll be chasing people up and down the corridors, trying to get them to behave in my chosen way? I'm not. They don't know that. So she explained it was an interest, and she was really fortunate to have been in a place where she could drop some days to study something she was passionate about. End of story. So think about what your red flags might be. It could be gaps. It could be changing lots of short-term jobs. Again, there's ways to not cover that, but there's ways to kind of couch that, sort of an overall headline of temporary roles and then put them in there rather than giving them everything. Remember, everything you've ever done isn't what they're wanting. They want to see how you fit this role. And another useful thing to think about is your CV is a sales document. You're marketing yourself here. So I don't mean lie, but if there is a 2-week job that you had that didn't serve you in any way, shape or form, you don't have to put it on. Yeah, it's not a legally binding document unless you're going to work for the government and then you're going to be going through enhanced disclosure and security. You're working at the airport. For any other normal job, you went to a job for 2 months, it was dreadful, you hated it. Don't put it on. Leave the gap if you'd rather. Sometimes there's some choices to be made. And another choice you can make is you don't always have to go fully reverse chronological. So last job, most recent to furthest away, you can choose to say relevant roles and other career history. It's just a neater way of them saying quickly how you fit. Just some choices. There's always choices and there's no gold standard. What you've just got to think is, how will this help to show the employer that I can do what they need me to do? If it's something totally different from ages and ages ago, that's fine, as long as there's a golden thread running through it that leads you to where you are now. And if it's an application form, again, we just want to tell them how we fit. We use our examples of what we've done before, how we did it, and what the result was, to show them that we fit this role. And we have to answer all the points. Application forms are tricky. Again, I sit and answer each point in the way that when I'm scrolling through it, if I haven't answered it, we have to fit it in somewhere so that they know, because they can't guess, they can't make up, and they can't infer. Remember, they're subject to strict rules around recruiting. So they have to have it on paper. If someone else asks to look at it, or someone says, I can't understand, why did this person not get an interview? They have to be able to justify it. They didn't show me that. They didn't tell me that. So you have to answer the points. So just a little note, loads to think about there, I know, and I know you're probably thinking, oh God, there's so much to do. Yeah, there is, but it's a process. And at the end of this process is your amazing new job. And honestly, once you've got your examples down, if you're going for similar sorts of jobs, they're going to ask similar sorts of questions. So once you've got them, you've got them. You've got them in a Word doc, you can cut and paste them in, just making sure always that they answer the question. The first part is the hardest bit, the tedious part of working out your achievements, planning what examples you would give. That's the hardest bit. And it's not just going to come to you. I get a lot of this, oh, I can't remember. We can't apply then. So we can't just do it like that. We have to take some time and think through. And when I'm working with clients, we work through, triggers, and I dig until we get the examples out. And sometimes they're waffling a little bit on something else and a tangent. That's not the question. Come back. They're not asking that. Let's go back to what they are asking and really focus in on the so what. What does this manager have a problem with right now that you can fix? That you just need to tell them that. And just a little word on recruiters, who get an awful lot of hate. I'm sure anyone who's worked in the sector will agree. They're not career coaches. They're not there for you to have a line, I'm not too sure what I want, I'm quite open. They want you to get in touch once you know what you want, so that you've got job titles and roles and salaries and places and hybrid versus office or remote in mind. Keep in touch with them without being a pest, and remember that they work for the client. The reason they're not getting back to you, and this sounds hard, but I'm going to say it because it's true, the reason they're not getting back to you is that they can't see how you fit the roles they've got right now. That's it. There's nothing personal. It's nothing awful. It's the same when you apply and you don't hear back. It's because they can't see how you fit the role. You haven't shown them. And if you can get into that mentality rather than, oh, I didn't get it, I had no luck, I had no hope. I hear all these words all the time. It's not anything to do with luck. Luck is the big magic finger of fate in the sky. That means you're not in control. You absolutely are in control. So when you get the bits right about showing them how you fit and you only apply for jobs that you fit, life becomes much easier. They work for the client pays their wages. So they will always, always have to go with what the client asked. And if the client is particularly sticky about a certain thing, they don't have right to override that. They can sometimes squeeze you in as number 5 out of 5 if they need 5 candidates. But the main thing to remember is that if they're not calling you back, it's just that they haven't seen how you fit these roles. It's nothing worse. I would still, if I was applying cold to a job that was with an agency, I'd then be phoning them back. But if they don't answer, that's okay. It's not personal. It's just that they can't, and if you can think about it, take the emotion out. They can't see how I fit this job. If I can get a conversation with them, I'd love to ask, have you got anything else that I might be able to go for? Can you suggest what I can do with my CV? Do you carry these sort of jobs, or would it be someone else? Can you recommend someone? These are the sort of conversations I'd want to be having. Again, remember, this is all the reactive stuff. If you do the bit of work on LinkedIn and grow your network, you might find that they're coming to you. And that makes life so much easier. So to sum up, right now, it's tough. You have to be really, really, really close a fit to get the job, and you have to show them that you're a close fit as well. If it's a little bit more tenuous, and if you maybe want someone to hire for you on your skills, the way to do that is through your network. Who knows someone who can speak to you about this role? Who do you know who's in that company? Who do you know who already works in that sector? Contact them and ask for a conversation. The closer you can get to the job, the better, because cold applying right now, you probably are up against 100 folk. Whereas if you have somebody in a place who knows you, who knows what you can do, life just becomes much easier. So yes, look on the job sites. Yes, apply reactively, but honestly, that should only be one part of your job search activity. The other part should be LinkedIn. It should be going to networking, either sector or locally, just to see what happens. And obviously the great time to do this was 6 months ago when you didn't need anything, but we're here where we are. So if you need to do it now, doing it a bit more reactively, that's okay. Just remember, for next time, you ideally want to be keeping the network growing, the evidence going all the way through, and really looking at the whole plan of your career instead of just focusing on the job, because panic stations can set in. So I'm just going to give you time for a little bit of a Q&A now, if that's okay. I'm sure people have lots of questions. And I know that there's an awful lot to think about there, but it's just about going as close to the role as you can and then showing them how closely you fit it, essentially, and using that big, beautiful, engaged network, hopefully, if we can do the building first. So, Benvin, I'm going to go to the questions that are in the chat first, if that's okay, and then and then while I'm doing that and reading what's in the chat, Sharon's just messaged me about my sister. That's lovely. If anybody else has any questions, they're either free to raise their hand, unmute and shout out, or type them in the chat, whatever you would feel most comfortable, and I will come to them. So I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Is it Masumi?
Yes, it is. Hello.
Masumi. Brilliant.
Thank you for wonderful.
So chronological gap. I don't understand quite what you mean, because the way LinkedIn works is you put all your jobs in, and if there's a gap, you can put, they have filler things like career break now, Masumi. So what were you thinking?
So yes, I've been on a career break since March 2022, and rather than put in bits and pieces of portfolio work that I've done, I've just left it completely blank on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just wanted to get a feel for whether that's a red flag.
It's not a long time, really, in the grand scheme, if you're having a career, but you can go into LinkedIn and put career break as if it was your job from then till now, if you want. There's a drop down if you were going to, it'll say add a new position, and you can put that in. You can just put career break. It just fills a space if you like, but yeah.
Does it conflict with the fact that I'm currently looking for something? Like, can I put career break and looking for an interim role, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. That's fine. Some people don't like gaps, and so there's nothing we can do about that. But usually people understand that lives happen and things happen, and moving and grooving happens. So yeah, I think you can make some choices. You can either put in the sort of projecty stuff you've been doing if it's if it points to where you want to go next, or if it doesn't, or if it's not useful, just put in career break, and then, you know, you're looking now. Both are fine.
Thank you.
Okay. No problem.
Thank you very much.
I think Katie has her hand up.
Katie does. And then, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
I'm looking for a 3-day-a-week role, and I've kind of struggling to find something that's part-time. So I've been going for full-time ones with the hope that if I ever get to final stages and negotiate, wrong way around.
Don't waste the time and your own, Katie. Honestly, and I'm saying this with kindness, how would you feel if you got all the way and you were like, oh yeah, we've got this amazing, oh, they're not actually going to do the job in hand. Do you know what I mean? So no, what's your sector, if you don't mind me asking?
Charity sector.
Charity, it should be really easy because lots of charities don't have enough money to pay a 5-day a week anyway. Yeah, no, it's my honest advice. Ask it really early on. Benvin's also agreeing. I'm not getting the sort of, I'll pretend I can do full time and then squeeze myself in it, because it's never going to happen. So honestly, only go for those jobs, or at very, very early stage, I would, you know, as in when you're applying, there's usually with charity, you usually actually do get a human being's name or a recruiter's name. Scroll right to the bottom of the ad and ask the question, you know. The other thing is, Katie, and this is going to sound weird and back to front, could you get someone to hire you for you? So not a reactive role that's up on a job board. Could you use your network? Could you use LinkedIn? Could you put out there that you're looking, if you can? I know you can. I don't mean necessarily green banner, because if you already got a job, but could you have conversations where you say to folk, here's what I've got and I'm available. Again, it's that flip round, available 3 days a week. Can we have a conversation?
Yeah.
So that they know from day dot that this won't work with the big guys. You know, the great big massive companies have planned, but a smaller charity might just be able to say, yeah, we could do that, and we could give that job, you know. There's 2 ways to do it. Reactively apply for jobs as they are, or through your network, connections and reputation, get someone to hire you as you. And as they do that, you tell them, I am available 3 days a week.
Yeah, I have handed my notice in, so I can be public on LinkedIn. Where because I've seen some people have that banner like open to work. Is that cheesy or sensible? And then where do you put your big thing, like this is what I'm looking for?
So open to work banner, massively controversial. Saw another post yesterday. No, I put it up. It's just, I'm open to work. I'm, you know, please contact me. I'm looking for work, rather than I'm not. I would do it, put the green banner up, and then just create a post. So go to LinkedIn, write a post, but make it a flair post. Again, positive. I'm available for work. I'm available 3 days a week. Here's the sort of things I can do for you. Here's the sort of, I would appreciate any likes and shares. And know that you will have to repeat that, because not everyone will see it the first time. The only person who sees all of our posts is us, and even we can't remember. So not the same wording, but you will have to repeat at points as well.
Great.
Hopefully that's
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, tell me if you agree, Laurie, you may say no, but I think sometimes you're never asking directly for a job. You're not sort of saying, has anyone got a job out there for me? You know, you're basically saying, this is me, as Laurie said, this is what I have available. This is, you know, when I'm available, this is what I do, how I can help you, you know, get in touch. Please share this, you know, please share this with your networks if you think I'm, you know, potentially a good fit. Rather than, so the positioning is you're taking all the ownership. And I think it's really a brave, it's, you know, LinkedIn is a place where we feel as if we're being completely naked. And I don't, you know, it's the idea of just, oh my God, the whole world's going to see it. As Laurie said, genuinely the reach will probably be initially, could be quite low, unless you have a fantastically engaged network already, of course, and you do something that goes viral. That's a very different thing. But most of the time, it's, you know, probably got a fairly limited number of impressions, limited reach. So it just means you have to feel the fear and do it anyway. It's a brave thing to do, but you really do have to swallow and just go out there.
And yeah, Katie, it would be absolutely wonderful if thousands and millions of people saw your posts. They don't, you know, so it's just, you do feel like, oh, and let me just most of your colleagues will say, oh, there's Katie, I'll absolutely share and help. If there's a person in your world that you'd rather not see, you can also block. You don't have to tell them, you can just block. You know, if there's somebody in your network who's stopping you going out there with your hands waving, you can also block. And I don't mean, I'm sure they're not, you know, but if you're thinking, oh, I don't want such and such, one, they won't care because they're not sitting focused on Katie, they're focused on themselves. But two, honestly, delete and block, bless and release, you know, so that we can have the lives we want, not held back by Betty that we worked with 25 years ago, who we didn't like then and we don't like now. It's just, I always talk about, you know, Sandra, who says that's her doing this, so that, you know, Sandra doesn't get to control my holidays, she doesn't get to control where I go. Sandra doesn't control my life. And if she does, I delete and block, bless and release. I put out into the world what I want back. And I don't mean that in a woo way, I mean it in a real practical way. And I also don't be scared of the bold ask, like the bold ask on LinkedIn and everywhere else. I bold ask, can I be in your podcast? You know, can I speak in your group? I'm here because I bold asked Benvin if I could come and speak to people. You know, that's how it works. If you don't bold ask, someone else will.
Yeah, okay.
And the only other thing I might add to the point about flexible working, just because I'm sure it's relevant to many people with us today, is that if it specifically says 5 days in the office, you know, or whatever it is, something that's very hard and fast, that's because it's really important to them. Yeah. If they haven't stated it, obviously you would scan the job description fully anyway, but sometimes right at the bottom, a very common thing now is, you know, we're open to flexible working, we're open to a conversation. You know, we often, you know, for those of you that follow 2 to 3 days, you'll know, you know, we're a big fan of Pinsent Masons. That's a law firm, admittedly, it's not for everybody, but they're massively into flexible working. But they may post a job that's 5 days, but they'll always say we're open to flexible working. They're inviting you to, if you're the right person, to potentially to still apply. But typically they tell you that. They typically will point it out to you so that they've got their kind of, you know, 5 day a week, but actually they're inviting you if they're genuinely open to it. And the other thing to do is also to look at other people who work for, in your instance, a charity, but obviously there'll be people here who want to work across a variety of sectors, is to actually look at what other people are doing. You know, you've got to get, that's the great thing about LinkedIn, get nosy, have a look at, you know, find people in that organization. Are they potentially working part-time? Are they talking about flexible working? Because you then have something to add in your cover letter, which is, you know, I note some of you will, if you choose to go ahead, I note some of your workforce work flexibly. This is, you know, this is amazing. And, you know, I congratulate you on it. You can flatter them. There are ways around, but it's the detective work that you need to do, which is sometimes not always on the page, which is why we talk obviously about LinkedIn being such a powerful powerful tool for the networking side, because sometimes on the page it's not always obvious. But yeah, it just requires you to do that extra leg of work, I suppose.
Yeah, and I would caveat that as well, Ben, you're absolutely right. A bit of nosy detective work and a little bit of flattery in a cover letter is absolutely wonderful. Only thing is, I've had women, usually in finance, say, but nobody at my level works part-time. I've seen it, you know, I can see that they're working full-time. That's okay. Don't go to the big guys who will only hire full-time if that's the case. And I have heard this week, I think it's Zurich are doing a massive thing on flexible, or Aviva, one of the two big.
Yeah, Aviva.
Don't go to PwC if you know they won't hire part-time. Go and speak to somebody with a smaller local business and offer yourself up. And I know that's, no, I can't do that. I'm an employee. I'm not like you. I'm not self-employed. I'm not selling myself. You kind of are in this place. And imagine if at the end of that conversation, you got your 3 day a week job for an amazing company that know you do 3 days. So there's not a discussion because that's what you've said. So it is a different mindset flip a little bit. But yeah, and this lady was very much like, is that a thing? But yeah, it's absolutely a thing. You just have to have a little bit of the courage to do it. And it's not for everybody, but worth doing. I'm just there's one question in the chat from H Marcha saying, when you say the market is difficult, countries, jobs, can you elaborate? Yeah, I'm talking the UK market, that's where my clients are. So I don't know where you are. is H. Marcher. I don't know if you can unmute or type further what you do, where you are, to see if that would help. I don't know the market across the globe. I know America's really tricky as well. Jobs, again, it would depend on what you're doing, what you can do there. You've unmuted. Great. What's your specifics?
Thank you for answering the question. Indeed, I'm working in Switzerland, so it's not the same as UK. Probably the unemployment level is quite low, very low in this market. So I was a bit surprised that you said that market is very tough. But I don't know, maybe in some job position, in some positions, yes, there are lack of candidate, or there are too many candidates. I don't know. I don't have this level of granularity, something like this. So that's why I was asking. So you're just talking about the UK market, okay?
I'm talking about globally mostly, because I know that America is really challenging and UK are really challenging, but I can't know about Switzerland. I'm sorry, I don't have clients there. I'm only saying it's tough so that people know that, you know, if they're not getting what they want, it's not them. It's probably either what they're doing or just the sheer number of candidates. So it's not intended to say, oh, I won't bother, you know, because the market's there's going to be lots of applicants. I'm going to have to do a really strong application, which you know we do anyway, don't we?
Okay, clear. Thank you.
And just to add to that, and you sort of said it at the beginning, Laurie, the market's kind of changed post-COVID, when obviously it was very, you know, everything was locked down. Then there was the floodgates were open, and there was definitely a candidate market. You know, employers were re-employing, they were looking for new talent. A lot of people left the workforce, which is still an issue, obviously, in some sectors, but in the sectors that we sort of focus on in terms of professional, you know, not just professional services, but across multiple industries, but in sectors like marketing, communications, finance, HR, you know, professional roles, then that has flipped. And, you know, companies have tightened belts, they've had hiring freezes, they are reconfiguring their businesses due to the economic climate. And whilst we don't use the word recession in the UK, we kind of are in a depression, or, you know, a depressed state in terms of employment. So that hence is why it makes it challenging for candidates. Again, it's flipped back to the employer. Let's call, I won't say employer power, but certainly it's sitting much more with them right now than it is with candidates. Saying that, they are looking for perfect fit candidates, and that, of course, if you've got the right skills in the right place, then perfect. But for the majority, it is definitely a tougher market.
Yeah. It's tougher than it was a year ago, isn't it? And I remember having this conversation a year ago and someone saying, I don't agree that it's going to swing back. And it is going to swing back. And I don't want that to happen because I think it's great for employees, but I know it will because it can't carry on. The salaries were going up and up and up and up. The flex was high, and just it got to a point of, you know, bubbles kind of burst a little bit. So as I say, if that's not relevant to you, ignore that. This is, you know, just if it's useful, great. As I say, I can't obviously speak for every industry and every sector. I have knowledge of a good broad stroke, but everybody's situation is a little bit different. So I'm just going to see if there's one more question, Benjamin. Yeah.
I don't see anything in the chat.
Anybody else want to stick their hand up? Anyone else got another question?
Don't think so.
Or type in the chat. No.
Of the last minute, Laurie, do you want to just wrap us up?
Yep, no problem at all. So all in all, folks, I just wanted to say that, you know, really focus in on what you want, focus in on what you've already got, plan as you go, have a look at your evidence as you go, always build your network when you don't need to, so that it's there for when you do. I like to think of it as like a big safety net underneath you. If you need it, you know, when you do say, I need something new, I'm looking to move, then it's there for you. And really, really think about, do you fit the job, and have you shown the employer that? Because there are a large number of candidates in most sectors right now. So you want to be showing that you are the one that is going to solve their massive problem. Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. That was very great. Thank you.
No problem at all. Benjamin, have you got?
Sorry, I was talking to myself on
I thought you were.
which is a rookie error. No, I don't have anything else to add. I think Claudia still has her hand up. I don't know, Claudia, if you want to stay behind. If you do,
Folks, also just wanted to mention I do help people one-to-one as well. If anyone is wants to get in touch about how I can support you, I am a career mentor, and I help women like yourselves to get those amazing jobs, to really do the tailoring, to work out what you want, all of that good stuff. So I'm going to stick a link in the chat to my introduction call if you want to have a chat about how I could work with you. The link is in the chat now, and Claudia was just clapping to say thank you. That's lovely.